Skinny spazoid. Ugandan President Idi Amin was the disaster in Uganda that was waiting to happen. A part of a country with a violent history of imperialism, Idi Amin seized power through means of violence and intimidation. On top of all this, the man is infamously known as a complete nutcase. Amin was said to have wild fits of rage, but only between his party's speeches, where he acted like a socialite. During his reign, he ruled with an iron fist and was directly responsible for the murders of around 300,000 people. After a while, he was run out of Uganda by political opposition and died an old man in Saudi Arabia. This was, however, only after the around 7 years of terror, where he ran his country like a madman, and his people had to endure the chaos of a man either bordering or full-on insane. Number 10. Personal just what the fuck. Alright, as stated before, Idi Amin was completely eccentric and an inhumane person. This entry is dedicated to the aspects of the man that was maybe not as important on a wider societal level, but were really horrifying for people personally involved with him. Perhaps the most infamous example of this was that many times he was accused of being a cannibal that delighted on eating the remains of his opponents. Also known about him was that he murdered one of his wives. Idi Amin was also known to be an avid fan of Hitler, even going as far as to support Palestinian groups interested in exterminating the Jewish people. God only knows what it was like to work with such a man that was such a loose cannon who had basically no form of ethical suppression. Number 9. Smuggling. One of Idi Amin's crimes that happened from his recklessness was how he basically destroyed the economy of Uganda. Amin was known to be a smuggler of goods all across Africa. Specifically, he was known to smuggle resources such as gold, silver, and coffee, amongst others. Amin was the ultimate oblivious ruler who lived a life of luxury as his people were in a terrible state of poverty. Amin also was said to not pay farmers who were collaborating with him in his smuggling. This is especially sad as the country of Uganda was rife with world agricultural potential that could have been realized with a capable leader. However, Amin instead used this fact to gain personal wealth. Number 7. Hijacking airplanes. Idi Amin had made Uganda a sort of safe haven for airplane hijackers. Most famously was the hijacking of an Air France airliner hijacked by Palestinians. Amin welcomed these people with open arms as a sign of deep respect and friendship. Obviously, Amin was an outcast of a world leader who was willing to take the most extreme stances on issues. This radical stance was a part of what enabled his wild behavior. Number 6. Prejudice. Idi Amin had many prejudices against many people, which showed in his actions and executions. As stated before, he was racist towards Asians, including Indians, and was also a known anti-Semite. Idi Amin was also prejudiced towards other Africans, especially ones from other tribes and ones with a high education. He used his prejudice of these people, who he considered rivals, to fuel his murders of them. This, of course, shows that Amin was deeply insecure of opposing ideals, and this was said to even have an effect on those who he put in positions of power in his own government. Number 5. Cruel interrogations. Idi Amin was known for his extremely violent interrogations. His interrogations were in fact so violent that other soldiers started to criticize and disrespect him for it. This, of course, opens the question of if he was in fact some kind of sadist. I myself don't know, but I would be interested to see some kind of Freudian analysis. To hear terms like too violent being spoken of by the military in regards to their enemies is an indicator that his interrogations were truly brutal and inhumane. This goes to show just what kind of person he was, whose violence was obviously fueled by emotion and not practicality. Number 4. Attack on Tanzania. This was the mistake that cost Amin his presidency and made him go into exile. After attempting to take over Tanzania, Amin found himself facing against a military force far too powerful to deal with. The act of attacking Tanzania is considered very questionable to many historians, as the reason for going to war was over a fight that had broken out between a Tanzanian soldier and a Ugandan soldier. Amin's attack on Tanzania is considered to be very arbitrary and egotistical. However, what more can be expected of such a man as Idi Amin? Number 3. Arbitrary murders. Amin's murders were so frequent and puzzlingly superficial that it seemed that nobody was safe from his crazy mood swings. Often he would murder members of his own staff and executed people for treason with absolutely no evidence. Even ordinary citizens such as students and farmers were killed, and even religious leaders like an archbishop. Amin would sometimes beat people to death with a sledgehammer and would force people to club each other to death as well. Number 2. Ruthless murders of political opponents. Amin's ruthlessness to get to the top was with him in his early military days and continued throughout all of his life in power. Murder after murder, bodies piled up as Amin did not shy from anyone he considered a threat, starting with people who were in more powerful positions than him when he was not president, and continuing with tribal killings as president. Amin's policy was obviously to wipe out all those who opposed him. After a while, he ran out of luck when it came to his battle with Tanzania, but for a while there was nothing stopping his relentless extermination of all people who opposed him. Number 1. Underground prison. Behind Amin's socialite presence was the horrifying hellhole secret that was his underground prison. Amin was known to keep people in and torture them, only sparing them by killing them with a hammer. It is reported that in these prisons, he would have his political opponents line up with hammers and kill each other with them in a line in order, meaning that a person would murder the person in line in front of them and be killed by the person in back of them. No person, however bad, deserves to live in such a hellhole, where murder, torture, and humiliation was so systematic and plentiful. If anything, Idi Amin should be a reminder to everyone of the dire consequences of allowing a true maniac to be in power.